All right, go ahead, intro.
Okay, ready? Are you gonna say it like that? I'm just making sure.
What's wrong with how I'm sitting?
Nothing. I was just asking.
Are you gonna sit like that?
Green light. You're recording?
Yeah, I feel like it's so crooked.
We'll fix it in post. That's what people say when they do show business.
Okay, wouldn't know that, but that's fine.
Ready?
Yeah.
Episode 6.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the camera when I do that, or look at you?
Are you welcoming me back to episode 6?
No. Okay then. All right, are you ready?
Yes. Stop staring at me.
But I feel like the intro should be me like looking at the camera and not like.
I feel like that way too. So
Okay, so I start really looking at you, then I look at the camera, and then I welcome them.
Okay.
The boogies.
No.
Ready?
Yeah.
Welcome back to episode 6 of the Art Theory Podcast. My name is Jeremiah. This is my wife Danielle, and we are your hosts. We wanted to just start by saying thank you for being here and for listening. It's been a little bit of time since our last episode, and our podcast has definitely looked a little bit different recently because of different things going on, which we'll get into today briefly. But
we pretty much just wanted to give an update on what's been going on the past month or so.
yeah,
Or so. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
like from the last episode. I know that there are so many of you that have been praying for us, which we're so grateful for. We've definitely felt all the prayers, and we might have said this in the last episode, but I know I've like told so many people this, that like in this season, like we definitely have just felt like almost like a rumble of like a rumbling, and it feels like so many prayers are going up on our behalf, and it's so beautiful. So we just wanted to say thank you for all your prayers. The Lord hears each and every one of them, and we wanted to give you an update so you can know that your prayers are being answered.
Yeah.
And
so a little backstory for anybody who's not aware or didn't watch the last episode. Since the beginning of, I guess, like early May, late April, kind of had some issues that I started noticing with my vision, and turns out I ended up getting diagnosed with something called retinopathy, and then had full retina detachment in my right eye, and have now since had 2 surgeries in hopes of reattaching and regaining some of that vision. If you're curious about the story, it is in the last episode. We go into a lot more detail of kind of like what happened and the whole timeline of everything.
We'll link it below.
Yeah. And so this episode is just kind of an update since then, because it has been, I think it's got to have been at least almost 6 weeks since the last episode, because I don't even think I had got my second surgery the last time we were on here. But with that being said, I did end up getting a second surgery. We had a follow-up appointment about a week ago. And according to the doctor, everything is on track and looking the way he had hoped, based on where we're at. But unfortunately, it is just a very slow and steady process. So on the upside and the good news, things are going well and things are progressing. I still currently don't have vision in my right eye, but that's to be expected because at the second surgery, after they do the surgery, they basically put like oil in the back of my eye, and that's designed to help keep everything flat, keep that retina attached. And during its healing process, they told me basically it was going to be about 3 to 6 months before they could take the oil back out. And they'll kind of just keep every month going back and getting new images taken and new photos and making sure everything's progressing properly. So it's been about 6 weeks, almost 7 now, I guess, since the second surgery. My appointment last week, I was hoping to get more of an update as far as when they think they might be able to take that oil out, because to me it's still strange. Like 3 and 6 months it's literally like double the amount of time between the two. So it's kind of like, what are you really looking at? What are we really hoping for to be seeing in order for it to be closer to the 3-month mark, or for it to take a full 6 months? So,
which I feel like what it seemed like your doctor was saying was the whole idea is that you just want the retina to be attached and flat, and all of the scar tissue to be gone. And like that healing process is undetermined. And it's like, it just is based on your body. So it's like you can heal up in like 4 months, or you can heal up closer to 6 months. And they just want it like really flat there. So when they take out the oil, which is essentially the weight, it doesn't like lift back up. So it was like kind of difficult, like hearing that we don't really know if it's going to be 3 months post that surgery or like 6 months or whatever, but it's kind of just like, we'll know after each appointment how much closer we are, which is just a giant waiting game. And I mean, yeah, for anyone that was wondering, we did leave off the last episode talking about we were in between 2 doctors that we were trying to figure out which
3.
one. 3. Oh yeah. Actually, it was 3 doctors that we were thinking about going with, and so much has happened during that time. And the Lord was just moving and opening doors, shutting doors, like redirecting us. So much stuff has happened. And that is probably an episode in itself that maybe we'll get into one day. But ultimately, it led us to a completely different doctor. And that's the one that we're with now. But we really, really do feel confident with him. And feel like that's the doctor that the Lord led us to. And so we feel good about it. And so I feel like in this kind of waiting period, do you want to actually, I know like some people are probably wondering, like when you say like you have no vision, do you want to kind of like talk about like what that even means? And
I feel like, the 2 most common questions, I guess, would be like, what is your vision going to look like once you're like after this? Are they hopeful? You know, because obviously, like my faith says that everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be perfect, and that's what we're believing, and that's what we're praying for, and that's what so many people all over have been praying for, and so that's what we're holding on to. But on top of that, the doctors themselves are also relatively hopeful in terms of saving the vision. To the extent of that, they don't know yet.
Like the quality of the vision.
So there's no way of them being able to tell until they take the oil out, at least for my right eye, what it's going to look like. So once they get the oil out, they'll have a much better idea. I'll obviously have a much better idea, but there's no guarantee that it's going to be 2020. I've heard multiple opinions, some doctors saying that, you know, like that probably will never be a good eye again. And I have this current doctor who seems a little bit more optimistic, but is very much on the side of it's just going to take time. They have a treatment plan in place, and so they're just going to kind of see how it's going to go. So as of right now, it's kind of undetermined how long, even once the oil comes out. So, you know, it could be another couple months until the oil comes out, and then after that, we'll see what the vision looks like, and then there could be continued treatment once the oil is out. There definitely will be continued treatment after the oil comes out to try to regain it. But again, like you said, we're believing that, you know, God can do a miracle, and that whatever the vision that I'm going to need for whatever it is that I'm doing with my life, that God is going to restore it to that point, no more and no less. And so we're just believing for that. The current standing of what my vision looks like, I would say, so the retinopathy is in both eyes. My left eye, which is the eye that I can see out of now, is good enough for me to get around, do basic things, but unfortunately it's still pretty blurry. It's very difficult to read anything. I'm unable to drive. I'm unable to work. Can't do a whole lot with that. My right eye, with the oil being in there, immediately after the surgery, it's pretty much completely black. It's fully dark. After about a week or so, it kind of starts shifting to a more like lighter gray color. And then as the weeks have progressed, it started to get a little bit more where you can start to see a little bit more shadows. You can start to see a little bit more color. And so that's been very slow and steady, but on the bright side, definitely a way to kind of track that it is progressing. When my retina fully detached originally, I had zero vision. The whole central vision was completely gone. So if I were to even wave my hand in front of my face, I couldn't see that anything was happening through that eye. And now it's to the point where I can start to see movement. I can start to see shadows, especially in like brighter outdoor settings. It seems like the contrast is more helpful in there. So it's definitely healing and it's definitely getting there, but unfortunately it's very minimal. It's kind of like it's kind of like being completely like underwater, essentially. Like and trying to open your eyes and see anything, you can kind of see like blobs. but it's still going to take some time. So that's basically where I'm at currently, which has obviously led to a pretty radical shift in our day-to-day life. Over the last couple of months, a lot of unknowns, a lot of trying to figure out what this next season is supposed to look like, because we don't know exactly when things are going to happen. And so it's been a little bit difficult to plan out exactly what we're supposed to be doing here. But does that kind of answer, I think?
I feel like just so many people are curious, like when you say like you have no vision. I feel like people can't like wrap their mind around that. But yeah, so I feel like just getting clarity on that, which I feel like you did. But also, like, kind of another thing that you were touching on was just kind of knowing like what to do during this time. And one thing that you've always said was like you just want to be like stewarding this time well. And it's like, okay, like we have a timeline of 6 months where it's kind of just like we are in that waiting period of getting your vision restored and getting that healing. And you don't want to look back at this time and just be like, I just wasted that time. Like I didn't do anything. And obviously it's been such a huge blessing, like being able to be home with the kids full time and have a bunch of family time. And so much fun. We get to hang out all the time, Jer. Isn't it great?
Day, all day, 7 days a week. So.
So it's been really good. And it's just been an adjustment, like trying to figure out, like what does the Lord want us to do with this? And I feel like so many people have told us, like, you know, like you just need to be resting during this time. And I feel like we both agree with that. We really feel like the Lord has been working on us and like really trying to show us how to rest. And we've even talked about that in previous episodes. Like we did a whole like social media fast because we wanted in the beginning of this year, because we wanted to experience rest and see what the Lord had for us in that. And we're just kind of the type of people where we typically default to just go and like it's really hard for us to just like slow down and rest because we're constantly battling that like need or that like desire to like feel productive and get things done, and I guess like even strive, and you know. And so I feel like the Lord has really been reshaping our mindset when it comes to that, when it comes to productivity and all of that. And so that now this happens and we have like 6 months and people are like, just like rest. And we're like, okay, I agree. But
here's the deal.
You always say like,
it's just, okay, so I get the idea that you need to rest. And I think that is so important. But the reality of it is resting can't be a full-time thing for 6 months. Like at the end, like at a certain point, like we do need to be doing something. And I think you and I tend to be, which we're working through, a little bit more of like the extreme type where it's kind of like we go all in on something and it's like, okay. And considering our life for the last 2 or more years has been running a business full-time, then shifting into then me getting a job as well as running our business. We were just doing a lot. And you know, a lot of times like people would always kind of say like, you guys do too much, you guys need to rest, you guys need to take a break. But we've always kind of said, like, especially from our business side of things, like we find rest in that because we love doing it. We love working together. It's been a dream of ours forever. So it's not the same thing as going to this 9-to-5 job that we hate, but we have to do it because we need the money, whatever the case may be. We actually enjoy working together. We enjoy creating new ideas. We enjoy the different like aspects of the business and stuff. And so I feel like a lot of times it's like, it's not so much of this like burden that we're trying to escape. It is something that I feel like we enjoy. Obviously there's aspects to it that are difficult. There's stressful. There's, you know, the financial side of things, the unknowns of what's going to happen, what next month might look like. But
the overall thing of our business is to be like uplifting and encouraging people and like, reminding people to be pursuing the call that the Lord has over their life and everything. And so it's like all of that stuff like does fill us up. And so we do get recharged doing that. And so like when we find rest in that, I know our rest comes from the Lord and all of that, but that's also restful for us. And so when people are like, don't focus on the business, or like, just do this, it's like, but that's part of how we rest too.
Right. And so now it's like, okay, we want to be focusing on like the rest and the recovery and getting back to a place of, being able to see again and being able to do those things, which is important. But I think, like we said, it's like, you can't just rest for 6 months, 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously, and I am so grateful and so thankful that we get to be together, take this kind of forced rest, be with the kids, like have the freedom to kind of do a little bit more than we used to. I know a lot of times like we would have excuses with me working and different things that we didn't have enough time and we didn't have the resources to be able to do certain things. And I feel like now in this season, like everything has been kind of slowed down and stripped back. And we've kind of got to this place where, like she was saying, we want to be stewarding this time properly. And not to say that we're constantly keeping ourselves busy and distracted and avoiding anything. But we want to be doing something productive, and we feel like that's what God wants us to be doing too. Like, I don't think he's sitting up there going, you guys really need to just chill out. And we're like, no, we got to do something. I feel like I think that he is trying to get our attention to show us what proper rest actually looks like and how to balance that. Because I feel like for us, like I said, like we're a little bit more extreme. So it's either you work 7 days a week, 365 days a year, or you work 0 days a week. And it's like trying to figure out what that in between looks like, of having a productive sense, not necessarily having the full control where we're like, this is what needs to get done and we're planning everything, but allowing God to make those interruptions and to say like, here's your idea, great, but also let me kind of shift around some of the things that you might think are the most important. Because obviously right now I'm limited in terms of what I can do. But there are definitely things that I can be doing and I want to be doing those things. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I just think it is a balance, and it is like a huge surrender to allow God to basically speak into my life right now and not have so many things to be distracting me and pulling my attention. And I think I want to be in a place where I can receive that. And I think that is in itself a huge blessing, because not many people have the time to just be able to like listen to God's voice. And I think I would be foolish if I were to just fill my time with a bunch of wasteful things, just going like, okay, just got to get to that finish line, got to get to that finish line. It's like we're slow motion crawling through this next season. And I feel like there's so many things that God is like sprinkling along the path. He's like, if you're paying attention, you can pick them up, but they're easily missed because they're not these like giant signs that are flashing lights. It's like, it's these little tiny things that I'm going to be dropping in your path. And if you're aware and if you're paying attention and seeing with your faith eyes, not your physical eyes, like I know there's so much irony in that, but it's like, the truth is there is something so spiritual about your vision and then vision casting and your, and those, how those two things tie together. And I think right now, like learning what it looks like to look through faith eyes and not physical eyes has been a huge thing for us. And I feel like we just want to be people that can look back on the season and go like, it's an earthquake. Lord?
Babe, that's spot on.
Well, earth-shaking news. But with all that being said, that's crazy. There was literally just an earthquake right now.
Yeah.
I wonder if you'd be able to pick that up.
On what?
The camera. Like, did the camera shake a little?
Probably stabilizers on there.
Oh, I wonder if Ezra realized what was happening. That's crazy. We haven't had an earthquake in so long.
No, there was one like a couple weeks ago. We just didn't feel it.
Okay.
I saw
it. That?
It was, I don't know, I saw it all the way through. Anyways, no, but that is so true. And that's really good. Even the Lord thought so. So yeah. I was gonna say something about what to do during the season. You said, okay, like you're limited. We kind of always joked about like, okay, like what do you not need your eyes to do? Speak. And I mean, if you've watched some of the other episodes, you probably know that we've talked about how it's the Lord really put it on our hearts to start this podcast, and it's been almost 2 years now since we like really felt like the Lord telling us we should be doing that, and we've just been dragging our feet and like using every excuse in the book that like to not do it. And I feel like right now we kind of are at the point where we're just like, okay, Lord, we understand you're taking away literally every single excuse that we have. And it's like, okay, we always said we didn't have the time. You gave us all the time. We didn't have the resources. You gave us the resources. You don't have this, that, whatever. He figured all of that out, and then he laid it out, and he's like, great, now do the thing that I asked you to do. And there's not really much else we can be doing in this time besides this. And so, like, that's so annoying. But yeah, we're kind of at this point where we're just like, okay, like we got it. You know, we need to do this. I don't know why, but we are trusting that the Lord is either going to take us down this path of pursuing this podcast and it's going to be great, or it's going to be a redirection to the next thing. And we might not get the next step until we're faithful in the thing that he's asking us to do now.
Ooh.
And so here we are. This is us doing that, and we'll kind of see. And honestly, you've probably noticed if you found us from social media a while ago, that we've been like really quiet on there. And I feel like ultimately there's been a lot going on in our life, and we just don't really know, like, what does the Lord want us to be sharing? What are we supposed to be keeping more private? What are like having like a job, I guess, or like a business based off of like social media and all that stuff. We're not influencers, you know, like I feel like, but like having like an influencer job or whatever, so you're like working on Instagram and all that stuff is so weird when I feel like you kind of are going through something and you're just like, how transparent are we supposed to be? We want a business built on transparency and we want to be relatable and stuff, but then it's also very hard to be that vulnerable. And so I feel like we've just been trying to be prayerful about how we're supposed to be approaching that. And I think meanwhile we've kind of just been like, all right, we're not really going to post anything and until we kind of figure some things out. And I think what the Lord is like just really showing us with that is like, you know, we can be transparent because we know that like the more people kind of knowing about like our story and the things that you're kind of going through, the Lord is really using that in other people's lives. Yeah. And that is something that we keep getting reminded over and over again. There's been so many people that have like messaged us, so many people that are reaching out to our families and talking about how your story and even how like your faith going through all of this has truly impacted their life. And that has been insane. So we know that the Lord is working in so many other people's lives through this. And so I feel like we kind of feel like a little thumbs up to like, yeah, you can share.
Yeah. So little intermission. Should have joined the podcast. But I think, I mean, you spoke on a lot of things. And I think just to kind of touch on a few things about like the actual podcast and kind of like the hesitation and stuff like that. Like obviously we're parents. Like this is what our real podcast life looks like. This in a lot of ways has been an excuse because it's very hard to find the time with kids. And like she said, it's like God really used this time to kind of strip away a lot of those excuses and said like, okay, like I called you to something. And I wanted to touch back on what you were saying about like, a lot of times God won't show you what's next until you're dealing with what's now. And I feel like for us, we kind of got this call to do a podcast for whatever reason. And I know there's a million other people doing a podcast right now, and neither of us are really people that love being in the spotlight. So this is very uncomfortable for us in a lot of ways.
If you can't tell.
You can't tell how stiff my shoulders have been this whole episode. No, but Yeah, it's not something we would have like naturally done or felt super comfortable doing, but we feel like for whatever reason, this has been kind of the one constant thing that we do feel comfortable about. We've dramatically kind of shifted our quote unquote textured art business within Arc Theory.
Not comfortable about, like kind of confident.
Confident about.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But we've kind of shifted a lot of our focus from textured art into going back with the original idea of what the Arc Theory even is. And what that is to be an encouragement to help people identify their arc, to go build their arc, to be an example of people doing that, and really to kind of show people what it looks like to build your arc and the behind the scenes. And we've always talked about with like podcasts and different people, it's like you kind of see, sometimes you get a glimpse into like where they were at the very beginning, and then you don't see any of the in between, and then you just see this end finished product, and you're like, how did you go from there to there? It's like it's A to Z. And I feel like so often we're just like, well, what did that middle of the road look like? How did you get there? How did you navigate through those things? And so I think part of us with this podcast want to be people that can kind of show you what the reality of building a business, building an arc, and doing it in a way that makes the most sense to us. Like our podcast is going to look a little bit different from here on out, because one, we want to be more consistent in it. Like we've been kind of like a month and a half between episodes, and it's just because, like she said, we've used the excuses that we don't have the time, we don't have the money, we don't have the resources,
and it needs to be like in this area only,
and it has to look a certain way, and I want it to be super professional, and I want it to have this and the quality and everything. And I feel like God's up there going like, I called you to do something, I didn't ask you for it to be perfect. And I think like for us, again, being kind of the extreme type, it's like, no, we need to have the highest quality camera, the highest quality microphones, we need to have the studio space, and it's like
when we do things, like we like to do them right. You know?
And I think there is good in that. Like I think you should respect the things that God's called you to and treat them with excellence. But I feel like with our lifestyle and where we're at, it's like we need to be able to fit our business into our life in a way that makes sense, in a way that we can do it on a more consistent basis, which means sometimes you get surprise visitors in the episodes, and sometimes our podcast will be on the road, sometimes it'll be out in public. Our last episode, we did it at a coffee shop. And that's just because in order for us to do this, it has to make sense for our schedule. We don't have necessarily the ability to always have this studio carved out space, you know, and so we're just trying to basically, like she said, steward this time properly and do it in a way that makes sense, and in a way that we can actually do it and not be so quick to put it off and, you know, basically keep avoiding it the way we have been. But anyways, I just wanted to touch on that. So yeah, I know I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but I feel like you said a couple things in there that I feel like I didn't want to completely brush over. But yeah, you were basically saying that there's been like a lot of like really cool stories that have come out of people even just kind of like hearing this, and then we've been so just amazed at how God can use something like this to affect so many different people in so many different ways.
Yeah, and I think obviously we know, like, that's the way the Lord works. He sees the bigger picture, and he sees how he can connect something happening from this person's life to this one, and do such a great work in somebody else's life because of this. And it's just like, and it's incredible when you like just get a little glimpse of that. And we know that the Lord is using this in even ways that we're never going to understand. Your mom was telling us that she was having a conversation with one of her friends a while ago, and her friend just got re-diagnosed with some health issue that she was going through, and then she felt like really discouraged and just felt like what is happening? What is the Lord doing? And just felt like really disappointed, discouraged, and that just like things aren't going right. And then your mom was kind of sharing your story with her, and just like the faith that you've had during this time, and how you have just really clung on to the fact that like none of this is a surprise to the Lord. He knew down to the second of when your vision was gonna disappear. And he knew what surgeon we were going to go through, and he knew every single detail. None of it was a surprise. And then you've always said, like, I'm going to have my vision restored, to the exact amount that the Lord wants me to have to fulfill the things that he wants me to do. And she was sharing that with her, and I guess that like really spoke to her. And she just said, like, she was telling your mom later on, or I think she was telling like her sister later on, and her sister told your mom that like that story like just like really, really encouraged her, that even in her situation, the Lord knew everything that was going to happen, and he's still working everything out for her good. And so to like take comfort in knowing that like the Lord is handling it.
Yeah.
You know, it might look completely different than how we have planned, but he's got this, and we just need to trust him. And that's what you've done. And so that, like, seeing that faith has been so incredible, even for me, like as a wife, seeing you go through this and choosing to cling to the Lord so tight for literally like dear life, and like not let go. And you've really like just put your heels in and decided that like, I'm going to be faithful during this time, and just trust that the Lord is working everything out for my good, because that's what he says. And so that's just been like really incredible and really beautiful to watch. And so, yeah, we know like the Lord is using this. And because of that, like, that's why we kind of felt like the okay to like be sharing this stuff like publicly, even though it's really uncomfortable for us. But going back to what you were saying is like, that's what we wanted this whole Arc Theory podcast to be, is for you to see the behind the scenes of people going through stuff. And hopefully that will be an encouragement to somebody to help them build their arc, pursue the thing that the Lord has asked them to do. And I feel like another reason why we've kind of been a little quiet on social media is because that's our entire business. Like encouraging people, reminding people, go pursue the thing that the Lord has asked you to do, and pursue your calling and do it with everything that you have. And we're always saying that. And then here we are with this podcast. We feel like right now that's the thing that the Lord is calling us to do. And we're just like, not us. And we don't want to do it. And we've seriously avoided it for so long. And so every time we would go to try and like post something, we just felt like such like phonies, honestly, where it's just like, we are not practicing what we're preaching. And so like, we've just been quiet. And it's like, we're not in a place right now, or like, we didn't feel like we were in a place to actually go pursue that thing. And so it's like, all right, well, don't look at us. We're going to just try and like slide under the radar. But that's not how that works, you know? And we know that the Lord has put this calling, even of starting the Arc Theory and all of that, over our life for us to do, for maybe even a season like this, where he's called us to now do a podcast in this. And it's like, you need to remember that you're telling people to go do that thing. So now when 2 years later, after you start this business, I'm going to tell you to do something that's very uncomfortable, you got to do it. And so, yeah, this is us doing it. And we really don't want to do it reluctantly. You know, we want to do it in a way where it's just like full surrender and trust that if this is what he's asking us to do, even if we don't feel qualified, even if we don't know the exact details of how it's going to work, like the Lord is going to work it out, and all we have to do is just take one step at a time. So I hope that is an encouragement to you, that even if the thing that you feel like the Lord has placed over your life is completely out of reach, or you don't even know where to start, or you just don't even want to do it, it's just one step at a time. And as cliche as that is, that's really all the Lord is asking us to do. He's not asking us to figure out every single detail. He's asking us to be faithful in the first step.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Exactly. It's really good.
Thank you. Nope. So anyways, I think that's pretty much all we kind of wanted to cover in this episode. Really just give you an update, and also just put it out there that, you know, we are going to be more consistent in the episodes, because we're taking away all the excuses and we're just going to do it. And so, Thank you for keeping us accountable. And we will see you for the next episode. If you have anything that you would like us to be praying for, or just want to say hi, you can leave a comment and we'd love to chat with you. So have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you for the next episode.
See ya.